Rudresh and I first met playing together with Roswell Rudd in an informal jam session, and we decided that we had musical chemistry, and we said, well, we'll play, and we'll play together sometime. Gerry and I have been playing together for 35 years, and I don't even remember the first genesis of the gig. I don't think I made the gig.
That was an interesting story. I remember when I showed up at the first gig that we had booked in Brooklyn at Barbez, and this is also my first time, I guess, playing with you, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so we had talked about doing a kind of quick rehearsal before playing. It was all relatively informal and kind of sort of playing it by ear and just trying things out. And I don't have a cell phone, so when I got to the gig, we were supposed to meet around 6. Nobody showed up, and nobody showed up at 7. It was getting close to gig time. Finally, Rudresh showed up, very relaxed, and said, well, Mark's stuck in traffic. So we started to look at music together, and he was, I was showing him some charts. I was beginning to realize this working on these charts wasn't going to really happen because we just didn't have enough time. But he was saying, oh, yeah, we could do this. Yeah, we could do this. It's very, very open. Let's try this. Yeah, it's great. And then we went to play, and Mark still wasn't sure. He's really stuck in traffic. We better start duo. So we did. We started duo.
And the place is packed,
and the place was seriously packed. We had lots of people in there, and we started to play. It was going great. And then Mark Elias, the other half of the Marx Brothers, walks through the door. Now, I had this whole impression. I'd never heard that Mark had a reason to go back home, and there was a whole situation.
Yeah, my dad was ill, and I had to go back, so
right.
I couldn't make this gig.
He just said Mark. He didn't mention which Mark. So it was like, for me, like I'm like playing, I'm looking at, this is Elias. What's
the wrong Mark.
So our first gig was a non-gig.
Exactly.
So we got a little derailed that time, but we ended up finally playing together the way we wanted to originally, probably about 6 months later.
Yeah.
The one thing that I regret is that, I got to know Mark right when he decided to move to San Diego. Yeah. So we missed this good chunk of time in New York where I guess we could have been playing together.
Yeah.
So so it's a little bit, unfortunately, it's a little bit difficult to get together, but we definitely treasure the time that we have. And now Gerry lives in Switzerland, which has made it
makes it even easier.
Yeah, right. But
what you gonna do?
But I think it's really great that this is the first time that we've been able to do something with these geographic obstacles. So I think it's a small miracle and a welcome one.
Yeah.
For me, it's a very refreshing situation. I was definitely nervous at first that these guys have this strong relationship, and that I felt like an obligation to figure out how to negotiate that. But I quickly realized that, with the openness that these guys stand for as musicians, that it wasn't that difficult to find a place, and that maybe I can manage to bring something different out in them as they do in me. And we're all coming from different approaches as improvisers and composers, and I think we all kind of complement each other. So, I think it's a great situation, and it's very different from everything else, that's on my plate right now. So it's very refreshing.
Find myself having assimilated a lot of materials along the way, so that shows itself when I reflect in terms of listening to what the productions of things that I've done and my work as a composer as well as a drummer. I see a kind of both a consolidation and a moving to a kind of essence of ideas, and not so. I think when I was a little bit younger and working through both my composition and playing stance, I tended to work a fairly exorbitant range of ideas and materials, now I see things in a sort of more from a point of view of essence. I don't know how else to describe it. That where things are for me where it's simpler. So that would be one way to put where I'm at, and I think I find that is most easily noticed in my playing when I'm playing solo. When I notice that the ideas of these both the inventions, improvisations, and or pieces have a tendency to be very have a tendency to say a lot with a little, and I guess that's a process of time and consideration and decision making going on over time. So that would be how I would frame
it. I'm just happy that I'm excited about practicing and playing and discovering new things, and it's kind of interesting being in an education environment that dealing with bright young students who want to play and being the delving exploring sound. I mean, I just recently recorded my third solo CD, and as well as a DVD. So it was also part of the idea was like kind of showing what has gone on in the last 25 years of research, and it was interesting for me to actually take note of it, and I realized that, man, there's some stuff, some areas that I'm still trying to carve out and still get a handle on. I mean, spirit-wise, I feel like very similar to what I did when I was 17. I'm really happy about that. There's still things I'm at the edge of knowing what it is. I can have a sense of like, it smells like it's going in this direction and I want to follow it. And I think it, and the same thing, and it's, composing I feel differently though. Composing, it's a very, very different kind of process. But, again, I really love being in the environments where you're trying to compose for personalities, where it's like, well, what's gonna be a good trigger for the three of us, for example.
I guess I'm always just trying to make sense of it all. I think that I feel spread a little thin right now, and I'm trying to figure out how to negotiate that musically. I feel that it's funny. I feel like the more thin I'm spread, the more attention I pay to detail, which is a very strange kind of feeling that's actually very new to the degree that it's occurring. So it's all very exciting. I mean, I feel like I go through periods of where I feel like everything's kind of even and kind of plateaued, and then I feel like I go through kind of a messy period, and I come out stronger and more mature, and I feel like I'm in the throes of one of those messy periods, but I feel maybe mature enough to actually embrace it and see it for what it is. So it's exciting. I'm also doing a lot of stuff. I mean, I've been primarily leading groups or co-leading groups, but I'm starting to do more stuff with some high-profile band leaders, and that's really exciting, and trying to figure out where I fit into that and how to make the most of that situation for all involved without being the boss, and that's been really fun too. So just kind of onwards and upwards, That's starting to get called more to commission-wise to write for other groups, which is that I'm not actually playing in, so that's really exciting too, and trying to figure out how my compositional voice actually occurs in a situation where I'm not actually playing the piece. And it's a lot of unknowns that are really scary and fun, and we'll see how it all shakes out.
Well, I mean, the compositions were picked by they were the tunes that we generated together as a trio. I mean, I think most of the pieces were specifically written for the recording. We thought that they would be good vehicles for the CD, and they've proven to be, and we continue writing. It's where we're all at musically.
Yeah, it's natural to the kind of things that have evolved for each of us individually and collectively as players to have this drawing upon and being informed by a variety of things that inspire us. And it's a pretty wide-ranging experience of things, or range of things that play into what constitutes content and other elements of the music. So yeah, it's got that feeling of 4/4 and swing, and that whole background is there, but also a lot of rhythmic material is at play here. Even in very, very subtle ways, when it's not sounding so rhythmic, there's a lot of connection and a lot of exploration of rhythmic ideas.
There's almost pulse going on all the time.
I think jazz has become kind of a four-letter word for a significant sector of the population. So, and I don't really see what we do as a group or individually as being that jazz that people are put off to. I think what we do is actually very vibrant and is music that speaks to, you know, the contemporary moment. And so I think it's great to focus on the individuals and the individual voices, because that's, I think that's what all great music has been about anyway. You know, it's like the genre and the classification always come later.
Right.
Each time we get together, we move a little bit more towards seeing where that's headed, and I think that'll eventually end up in a recording, and so the process continues. It's very interesting. Collective-orientated groups have a different kind of life than leader-based stuff, where one person is in control of both the sustenance and content of the direction of the band. In this case, we all contribute. One of the things I enjoy about our efforts is that we all are putting in relatively equal efforts of making the sustain work. The sustain, by that I mean the business, the finding the work, finding the opportunities, keeping a part of all of the things that we do set aside for this group to continue. It's hard. It's not easy. We all juggle 100 projects and 1,000 responsibilities, so it's not so easy to find the space for everything. But we all seem to find enough space for this to make it continue. So that's good. It's encouraging. I like these guys.
Well, I think we each come with something come to the group with something that's quite formed, you know, maybe not in its final state. I mean, where the collaboration takes place is in maybe fine-tuning that and what we do with it as improvisers. I mean, we're not necessarily co-writing music. There are open spaces where we play, we're not actually playing off of a particular piece. But we are writing, ideally, hopefully, with each other in mind, as opposed to, you know, trying to rework pieces from other groups that we lead and force them into the situation, which is a common thing that people do who lead many projects. So, but the collaboration is really what happens on the bandstand.
Yeah, the collaboration is the improvisation itself, and you know, and as those as that gets more and more depth, and we develop more and more things, it sort of points towards either other areas of pure improvisation, or you know, points towards compositional vehicles to set that kind of the best of those situations. And as you'll see, you know, we're more and more moving towards continuous non-stop sets where we morph from one tune to the other, because you know, getting there is really the fun of it. You know, it's such a hard question to answer. You know, I would hope so. I mean, you know, wherever the music business is going, musicians will always have the need to document their work. And I imagine if the content, the music is happening, there'll be people ready to listen to it. I usually find if I'm excited about what I'm doing, generally it's contagious. And you know, when we play, I think we're playing for our own, you know, enjoyment of the music, and rather than I mean, we're playing for the audience, but they're not the object of the experience. You know, we're able to share that together. So I'm confident that if we do our job, we'll continue.
We talk about, you know, genre classification, and I think a lot of that is getting broken open because of the access people have to music, mainly because of the internet. And I think you have younger audiences that have more eclectic tastes than ever. I mean, obviously they're gonna be like the people that just listen to whatever's on top 40 and, you know, the Hannah Montana movement and all that. But I think you have, you know, people in their 20s and 30s that are excited about exploring new things, and, you know, and they're not concerned with it being jazz or improvised or, you know, culturally grounded, or where it hails from geographically. They just want stuff that has good energy and that's honest and speaks to them.